don't know how many times in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, I think many of us genuinely felt that we would not be mourning this Tisha B'Av again. Many times, certainly since October 7th, that we hoped and yearned and prayed and believed that there was somewhere that we were going, and all of the pain that the Jewish people has been through and continues to go through, that all of it is going to lead to not being on the floor in Boca Raton this Tisha B'Av. And how many times we believed that the war with Iran would be over. That we won. And how many times we believed that the political leaders that we had and have would get us to where we need to be, that this wouldn't be happening now. And we're wrong. Apparently we're all wrong. We've been wrong a lot. So I decided this year that I wanted to know why. And I, like you, have spent some time playing around with AI. And I decided to interview humanity. And I want to share with you a little bit of the conversation. I told Claude, you, Claude, have been trained on all of human text available. I want you to answer as humanity. Not any one person, all of humanity. I told it to stay clear of cliches and famous sayings and to answer as honestly as possible. So the first thing that Claude told me was that my framing was incorrect and that it could only answer based on the written record that it was trained on, which is all of English writing and literature all across the internet of literate, writing, speaking, native English people. The Western world. Okay. So I asked, what is the thing that we write about the most? What does all of humanity say? What do we write about the most? The answer it gave me was wanting. The gap between what is and what we want instead. That's the thing that we want, that we write about the most. Not love or death as topics in themselves, but the underlying thing is the gap between what is and what we want instead. And then I asked, okay, what do we want the most? And humanity answered, what we want the most is to matter. To matter to something that will outlast us and to be known while we're still here. And so I asked, what do we think about God? And the answer was, we can't leave God alone, and that's the most honest thing there is to say. What the record shows is a species that cannot settle the question of God and cannot drop it either. Under the doctrines, we want the universe to be a someone rather than a something. A someone can be forgiven by, be seen by. We reach for it the hardest of edges. Deathbeds, disasters, and births. And we use it, the God idea, for our worst and our best, in almost equal measure. There were a number of other questions that I asked. What is our greatest hope? What is our greatest fear? What do we think about love? And for every one of those things, AI, Claude Humanity, answered as, we think that. Except for one question. And the question was, what do we think about the Jews? And to this, Claude said, it depends who we is. There's a hedge on the question of who we is. For most of recorded history, the loudest thing the surrounding majorities wrote about Jews was suspicion. Turned in the writing into a machinery of accusation that mutated to fit every error while keeping the same shape, and culminated in an industrialized murder of 6 million. The recurring tell is that the accusations contradict each other. Too clannish and too cosmopolitan, too rich and too subversive. The signature of a hatred looking for a target rather than a target generating hatred. But that's not the whole record. There is also profound admiration, deep theological debt, centuries of ordinary coexistence that didn't get written down because peace really does. And of course, what Jews wrote about themselves, arguing with God and each other for 3,000 years. But you asked what we think, and the uncomfortable answer is that the majority mostly wrote its own fears onto them. There is no we when it comes to the Jewish people. There's no we. An AI that's trained to be as conciliatory as possible, because that's good for monetization, cannot answer the question honestly of what humanity thinks of the Jewish people. There's no we when it comes to that question. We think about love, we think about God, we think about hate, we think about fear, we think about hopes, we think about dreams. We don't think about the Jewish people. I think and you think. And that is Eicha Yashva Badad. 3,000 years of human writing tells us that humanity looks at us as alone. That we are alone. And that, my dear friends, is called galus. That's called exile. when every nation and every people and every religion is part of we. But paradigmatically, there's no we about the Jews. There is dogmatically an us and a them. The question is, what do we do about that? What do we do to correct the record of 3,000 years of murder, of rape, of massacre, of destruction, of the Holocaust and of October 7th, of the mutilation of left-wing, peace-loving, kibbutznik, Palestinian sympathizers, whose brutal murder was GoPro'd for their children to see, and then denied. How do you fix that? How do you fix a world that cannot see the Jewish people as part of we? The Chazal tell us that there is no cure for that. There is no cure. There is nothing that will make all of human literature, writing, news, and information view the Jewish people as part of we, as part of us. That's not what we're here for. Chazal tell us that we are paradigmatically Am Levadad Yishkan. We are a nation alone. Because in the deepest way, my dear sweet and holy friends, our desire to be part of the world, accepted by the world, included by the world, even tolerated by the world, it's the wrong frame, it's the wrong question, it's the wrong direction. The job of the Jewish people is exactly the opposite. From the days of Avraham Avinu, to the days of Matan Torah, to the days of David and Shlomo HaMelech, the job of the Jewish people is not to be included by the rest of the world, but instead to bring the rest of the world to us. Like the Sforno says, that we've learned many times, when Hashem tells us, "V'atem tiyuli mamlechas kohanim v'goy kodesh," that you need to be, for me, a mamlechas kohanim, a kingdom of priests, v'goy kodesh, and a transcendent nation. Says the Sforno, "La'avinu le'aros l'chol hamina enoshi, likroi kulam b'shem Hashem u'lavdoshchem echad." To educate, to announce, to inculcate into all of humanity that there is one God, that there is a purpose to humanity, that there is a purpose to existence. and to incorporate and inculcate and induce the entirety of the species into recognizing that grand and great purpose, says Shlomo Melech, as will be in the future. Those are the marching orders. That's the direction. And that's the end goal. The Chazal tell us that it doesn't start there. The question of how do we become everyone? How does we, the Jewish people, become inclusive of humanity? Doesn't start with the question of how to be inclusive of humanity. Begins first and foremost with being inclusive of ourselves as individuals. Starts with understanding that I have a mission and that you have a mission. That I have a purpose and that you have a purpose. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me and you to this world with the chelik halakal mimal mamish, the piece of godliness, to do something, to build something, to become something, to change something or someone. And it starts with us. And like Hillel used to say when he would come to the Beis Hamikdash, Imani kan, Hakol kan, if I am here, everyone is here. And that doesn't mean that he was a big shot. He didn't walk in streaming on TikTok, waiting for views to say, if I'm here, everyone's here. No. Says Rosh Shimon what Hillel meant is Imani kan, Hakol kan, is wherever I am inclusive of everybody. I see myself not as me, but I see myself as central to an orbit of everybody that is around me, and that I am part of them, that they are part of me, and that is who I am. It is the antithesis of narcissism, the epitome of humility. To be able to see beyond ourselves, to see that other people are us and that we are them, and that their mission and our mission are not independent of each other. And that even in the conflict, that even in the challenges, that even when my mission and your mission don't align, then in that conflict that there is greater resolution. And when there is tension between two people, the tension is to create a shalom that is grander and greater. And if we could do that about ourselves, then we could do that about each other. Perhaps we could do that about other Jews. Looking at and living in a world where we, us, our people, our nation, each one of us is fighting for our own fragment, for our own peace, for our own validity. Suspicion and with hatred and with animosity. Where right doesn't talk to left and left doesn't talk to right. And Dati and Chiloni and Haredi and Hasidi and everybody is we cannot see beyond ourselves. That doesn't mean Khalila to cave, that doesn't mean to give up, that doesn't mean to give in, that doesn't mean to say, I don't have an opinion. We have to have opinions, we have to fight for what we believe in, but to be able to see that our opinions are only one part of a refracted, immense, enormous, infinite truth, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants all of us. And so Chazal tell us that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, because Jews hated other Jews. Because that, my dear friends, is the Churban. If you want to know why the world looks at the Jewish people as an us and a them, it is not because the world started, it's because we started it. We started the us and the them. The fire started with us. The fire began with the Jewish people. So the Yerushalmi famously tells us that in any generation that the Beis HaMikdash has not been rebuilt, it is as if they have destroyed it. And there are many beautiful Hasidic Vartlach, some of which I have shared in the last few days. But the reality is that if the Beis HaMikdash is not yet rebuilt, it means that we are still kindling that fire. The inability to see beyond ourselves. To consider another person's opinion. The inability to pick up the phone. Have an awkward conversation. Can I tell you how many times in the last decade I've spoken to people in our community and outside, holding by the last few moments of a relative's life. And trying to get over the fact that they haven't yet resolved the things that have plagued their relationship. 40, 50, 60 years. And everybody's got good reasons. I've never yet met a person that says, I hate them for no reason. I have violated the Isra of Sinas Chin. Nobody believes that it's nothing. Everybody believes that they're justified. Which means that Sinas Chinam is just another way to say sinner. Because everybody believes that their hatred is justified. There's not a single person that says, I hate you. Why? I'm stunned. No reason. And that's the fire. That's the us and that's the them. That's the inability to have we. That's why the record shows that when we talk about Jews, there is no we. Because there's no we, there's no unification, there's no us. And if there's no us, so then the grand tefillah that we say on Shabbos afternoon of Ata Echad, you are one. Shimcha Echad, your name is one. Umi ka'amcha Yisrael, Gai Echad ba'aretz. And who is like your people, one nation in the land? If we don't see ourselves as one nation in Eretz Yisrael, one nation, so then God in this world is not one. Everybody has a different fragmented version of it. And God's name is not one. Everybody calls God by something else. Because the achdus that we so desperately want that the world should see us as part of them means that we need to see us as part of us. And you part of me, and me part of you. And if Yerushalayim is alone, Eicha Yashva Badad, it is because Jews look at each other and at themselves as Badad. We look at ourselves as alone. We cannot get over what we cannot get over. And so tonight, Tisha B'Av, Tavshin Pei Vav, 1,958 years since the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. We were hoping that we wouldn't be in Boca. We were hoping we were going to be in Yerushalayim. But we are not in Yerushalayim because we are still Badad. And so Yerushalayim is Badad. And every year, for the past 11 years, I've concluded Tisha B'Av with the hope and the prayer and the yearning that next year we will not be here. And that tefillah still holds. Though please God, Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach, myself and my family will not be here. And I'm hoping that we are not alone. But over the last 9 days, I've thought about this particular avodah. Because for the last 11 years, I've been your rabbi. And some of you might feel that you have said or done or acted in ways that make it awkward for us to be able to live in that world of Gai Echad Ba'aretz together. Such is the nature of rabbis and communities. So I thought it appropriate to share with you on this Tisha B'Av my own personal tikkun, what I can do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should look at his children and bring us together. I want you to know that regardless of anything, that there is not a single person in this Kehillah that I do not love and do not forgive. Mechila b'lev shalom. I don't want it to be that Be'ezus Hashem, when Mashiach comes tomorrow night, please God, by tomorrow morning, we cannot dance together in the Beis Hamikdash. Because that is what Hashem wants. Because there is nothing that makes a parent more proud than their children getting along despite pain and problems. And I want you to know that. Because if we want to live in a world where there is no us and them, of the Jewish people to the rest of the world, that there is no us and them between different groups of Jews, it has to start with us, that us is us. Not in spite of, but because of. The avodah of Tisha B'Av, the tikkun of Eicha Yashva Badad, is to ensure that people are not badad. And we don't see the differences between each other. Opinion is sure. But shared mission and vision and brotherhood and partnership and fellowship and fraternity. A unity that transcends everything. That's called Avas Chinam. Because if Sinas Chinam means hatred that you justify, Avas Chinam, it means love that you do not need to justify. And if we want Hashem to be a little bit less alone in this world, and the Jewish people to be a little bit less alone, then it begins with ensuring that nobody is alone. That we look out for each other, that we love each other, we care about each other. That the circle of Ani expands beyond myself. That we can look each other in the eye, that we can pick up the phone. We can melt away decades and sometimes generations of persistent awkwardness. Because I think what Hashem is saying is, until every Jew is happy to be in the Beis HaMikdash with every other Jew, there's no Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash is the place that every Jew can be with every other Jew. It's born out of that. It's built out of that. It arises or descends, or rather coalesces from that. It's not that Hashem builds it and then we will come. It is that we have to be ready to be there. And if we want it to be that Be'ezras Hashem is worth by next year or by tomorrow morning, that we are no longer sitting on the floor, and we are dancing in Yerushalayim, then we have to be ready to do it. We have to be willing to transcend ourselves, to forgive ourselves and each other, to care about the people that we disagree with the most. That's the cure for Eicha Yashva Badad. To no longer be alone. But if we are still here, right now, for almost 2,000 years, has not yet taught us how to be together. So then we read Megillas Eicha, that asks the question, how could it be that we are still alone? We are still crying at night. Mothers are still crying for their sons that have not yet come home. And more that are crying for those that will not come back. And for those that have come back and are not the same. And that's the cry that Hashem has for his people, for his children. And Eicha is asking of us, is demanding of us to cry with those that are crying, so that we can laugh with those that we want to laugh with. To see beyond ourselves, to live beyond ourselves, to become beyond ourselves. That's the only thing left to do. That's the final frontier. When we've solved everything else in the world, all that Hashem wants is for us to get over ourselves and to care about each other. And if the Beis HaMikdash is not in Yerushalayim now, it means that we haven't done it. So I wish to begin it now. To tell you that I love you. To tell you that I care about you. To tell you that I miss you. And to tell you that I will be spending the rest of my life trying to ensure that each and every one of us is together in the Beis HaMikdash. Because we don't want to be on this floor anymore. We don't want to feel this pain anymore. We don't want to cry these tears anymore. Hashem just wants us to come home. To Him, to each other, to Yerushalayim, to ourselves. That's the cure. It's the end of the us and the them. It's the beginning of we. That includes Ata Echad, V'Shimcha Echad, Umi Ka'amcha Yisrael Gai Echad Ba'aretz. It's the movement from loneliness to oneness, from aloneness to unity. It's the movement from Eicha Yashva Badad to Goy Echad Ba'aretz. And if we're not there yet, then tonight we cry because we haven't made it. Eicha begins in the Kinnis book on page 22.
Yashva Badad Hayira Bat Yam Haita Kalmana Rabati Bagoyim Sarati Bamdinot Haita Lamas Bachoti Veke Balayla B'dimata Lecheya Ein Lamenachem Mikol Avel Rea Baduva Hayla Leoivi Kalta Yehuda Meoni Merov Avoda Ki Yashva Vagoyim Lo Matzah Manoach Kol Rodfei Hisigua Ben HaMetzarim Darchei Tzion Avelot Mibli Va'emoed כל שעריה שוממים, כהניה נאנחים. בתולותיה נוגות והיא מעלה. היו צריה לראש אויביה שאלו, כי אדוני הוגה על רוב פשעיה, עולליה, הלכו שבי לפני צר. ויצא מבת ציון כל הדרה, היו שריה, כי איילים לא מצאו מרעה. וילכו בלא כוח לפני רודף, זכרה ירושלים. ימי עוניה ומרודיה, כל מחמודיה, אשר היו מימי קדם, בנפול עמה ויצר, ואין עוזר לה, ראו הצרים, שחקו על משפטיה. חטא חטא ירושלים, על כן לנידה הייתה. כל מכבדיה הזילוה כי ראו ערוותה, גם היא נאנחה ותשובחו, טומאתה בשוליה. לא זכרה אחריתה ותרד פלאים, אין מנחם לה. ראה אדוני את עני כי הגדיל אויב, ידו פרס צר על כל מחמדיה, כי ראתה גויים באו מקדשה, אשר ציווית לא יבואו בקהל לך. כל עמה נאנחים מבקשים לכם, נתנו מחמדיהם, באוכל להשיב נפש. ראה אדוני והביטה, כי הייתי זוללה, לא עליכם. כל עוברי דרך הביטו ראו, אם יש מחוב כמחובי, אשר עולה לי, אשר הוגה אדוני ביום חרון אפו. ממרום שלח אש בעצמותי וירדנה, פרס רשת לרגלי השיבני אחור, נתנני שוממה כל היום דבר, נזכר כל פשעי בידו, יסתרגו עלו על צווארי, הכשיל כוחי. נתנני אדוני בידי אוכל קום, סילה כל אבירי אדוני בקרבי, קרא עלי מועד לשבור בחורי. גת דרך אדוני לבתולת בת יהודה, על אלה אני בוכיה, איני יורדה מים, כי רחק ממני מנחם משיב נפשי. היו בני שוממים, כי גבר אויב, פרסת ציון בידיה, אין מנחם לה. ציווה אדוני ליעקב סביבה צרה. הייתה ירושלים ונידה ביניהם. צדיקו אדוני כי פיר מריתי, שמונה כל עמים, וראו מחובי, בתולותי ובחורי הלכו בשבי. קראתי למאהבי המה רימוני, כהני וזקני בעיר גבהו, כי ביקשו אוכל למו וישיבו את נפשם. ראה אדוני כי צר לי מאי חמרמרו, נפח ליבי בקרבי, כי מרו מריתי. מחוץ שיקלה חרב, בבית קמה מוות, שמעו כי ננחני, אין מנחם לי. כל אויבי שמעו רעתי, ששו כי אתה עשית, הבאת יום קראת ויהיו כמוני. תבוא כל רעתם לפניך ועולל למו, כאשר עוללת לי על כל משאבי. כי רבות הנחותי וליבי דבה.
יואיב יעקב, אדוני אספסיון, איש ממשעיים ארץ, תפארת ישראל. לא זכר אדון רגליו יום אפו, תפילה אדוני ולא חמל. עץ קולניוס יעקב אורס באברסו, מבצרי בס יהודה הגיע לארץ, קילל ממלכה ושריה, גדע בחורייו. כל קרן ישראל השיב אחור ימינו מפני אויב. ויבר ביעקב כי יש להבה אכלה סביב, תורה קשתו כאויב. ניצב ימינו קצר ויהרוג כל מחמדי עין. באוהל בציון שפך כאש חמסו. היה אדוני כאויב בלע ישראל, בלע כל ארמנוסיה, שיחס מבצריו. וירא בבס יהודה תאוניה ואוניה. ויחמוץ כגן סוכו, שיחס מועדו. שיקח אדוני בציון מועד ושבס, וינעץ בזם אפו מלך וכהן. זונח אדוני מזבחו ניער מקדשו, הזכיר ביד אויב חומוס ארמנוסיה. כל נוסנו בבית אדוני כי יום המועד. חשב אדוני להשקיץ חומס בציון, נעתקיו לא השיב ידו מבעליה. ויבל חיל וחומה יכתבום ללו, תבואו בארץ שעריה, איבד ושיבר בריחיה. מלכה ושריה וגויים אין תורה, גם נביאיה לא מצאו חזון מאדוני. ישבו לארץ ידמו זקני בציון, העלו עפר על ראשם, חגרו שקים. הורידו לארץ ראשן, בסולות ירושלים. כלו ואדמות עיני חמר מרו מאי. נשפך לארץ כבדי על שבר בסמי. בעוטף עולל ויונק ברחובות קריה. לימוסם יאמרו איי דגן ויין. ביסתפם כחלל ברחובות עיר. בישתפך נפשם אל חיק עמוסם. מה ידך מה אדם אלך, הבס ירושלים. מה אשרי לך ונחמך בסולס בציון. כי גדול קיים שברך מאיר פלח נמייך. חזו לך שב וספל, ולא גילו על עוונך להשיב שבוסך. ויחזו לך מסעוס שב ומדוכים. ספקו עלייך כפיים כל עוברי דרך, שורקו ויניעו ראשם על בס ירושלים. הזו עיר שיאמרו כלילת יופי, משוש לכל הארץ. פצו עלייך פיהם כל אויבייך, שורקו ויחרקו שיין, אמרו בלנו. אך זה היום שקיווינו מצאנו ראינו, עשה אדוני אשר זמם. ביצעם רצו אשר ציווה מימי קדם, Horas v'lo kamol. Vaysamach olayich oyev herim. Keren sorayich. Tzoak libam el Adonai. Chomas vatzion. Horidi chanach al dima yomam v'layla. Al titni fugas loch. Al tidam baseinech. Komi roni v'layla. L'rosh ashmuros. Shivchi chamayim libeich. Nochach pnei Adonai. Se'i elav kapayich. Al nefesh olalayich. Watufim bara barosh kol chutzos. Re'ei Adonai v'yabita lami olal tako. Im tochalna noshim piryam olalei tibuchim. Im yehoreg b'migdash Adonai kohen v'navi. Shochavu lo aretz chutzot na arvez akein. V'sulosai v'achurai nafalu v'charev. Horakta biyom apecha. Tovakta lo kamalta. Tikra. Chiyam moed migurai misaviv. V'lo hoya. Biyom afaronai palit v'sarid. Asher tipakti v'ribisi. Oyavichilam. Ani agever ani b'shevet evraso. Osinoag vayolach choshech v'loor. Ach biyashuv yafok yado. Kol hayom. Bilavis ariv yari shibaratz mosai. Bono alai vayakaf roshu sloa. V'machshakimo shivani k'meisei olam. Godar badi v'lo eitzeich b'nechoshti. Gam ki ezak v'ashaveya sasam tefilasi. Godar derachai v'gaziz nisivosai iva. Dov orev huli ari b'mistarim. Derachai sorer v'yfashacheni samani shomeim. Derach kashto v'yatziveni k'matara lachetz. Hevi b'chil yosai b'nei ashpaso. Hayisi sechok l'cholami negina sam kol hayom. Hispiani v'amromim hirvani la'ana. Vayagres bechatzat shinai hikbishani ba'efer. Vatisnach mishalam. Nafshi nashi sitova. Va'omara v'nitzki v'sochaltimi Adonai. Zechorani umrudi lanavarosh. Zachor tiskor. V'sashoach alai nafshi zos. Ashiv el libi al kenokil. Chaste Adonai kilo samnu, kilo chalu rachamav. Karashim labakarim, rabbi emunasecha. Chelkei Adonai amar nafshi al kein. Ochil lo. Tov Adonai lekovav lenefesh tidrashenu. Tov v'yachil v'dumam. Lis shuas Adonai, tov lagever kisao binurav. Yeshe badad vidam kinatal alav. Yitem be'afar piu ula yesh tikva. Yitem lemakeyu lachis pabecherpa. Kela wisnach. Leolam Adonai ki imoga v'richam karav chasadav ki lo inam libo v'yageh b'nei ish l'dakei tachas raglav kol asirei aretz liatos mishpat kaver neged pnei elyon Liaveis Adam Brivo Adonai Lo Rawa Mi Ze Omar Vatehi Adonai Lo Tziva Mi Pi Elyon Lo Seitzei Haravos ve'atov, Ma'isonein Adam Chai Gever, Al Chatawav, Nach Besad Racheinu V'nach Korah, V'nashuva Ad Adonai, Nisal Levavenu El Kapayim, El Bashamayim, Nachnu Foshanu Marinu, Ata Lo Salakta, Sakos Avawaf Fatir Defenu, Harakta Lo Kamalta, Sakos Avianon Lach, Meavor Tefila, Sechi Umaos, Tesimeini, Bekerev Amim, Patsu Aleinu, PM Kolo Yavenu, Pachad Vofachas, Hayalanu Ashes Viashaver, Palgemaim Teradeni Al Shever, Pasami, Eini Nigara, Veloci Demamien Afugos, Ad Yashkif Veyere, Adonai Mishamayim, Eini Ololal Nafshi, Mikol Bnosiri, Tzod Saduni, Katzipor Oyavaikinam, Samatsu Vabor Chayai, Vayadu Evan Bi, Safu Maimal Roshi, O Martinik Zarti, Karasi Shimcho Adonai, Mibor Taktios, Kol Ishamata, Altalei Mosnechal, Rav Chasi Lishavasi, Karavta Biyomek Roeka, Omarta Altira, Ravta Adonai, Rivei Navshi, Goalta Kayai, Rawiso Adonai Avaswasi, Shafata Mishpati, Raisa Kol Nikmasam, Kol Makshvosam Li, Shamata Kerpasam Adonai, Kol Makshvosam Alai, Sisei Komai Vegyonam Alai Kolayam, Shivtam Kimasam Habita, Ani Mnaginosam, Chashiv Lohem Gemul, Adonai Kamase Yedeyem, Titain Lohem Megina Slave, Talasecha Lohem, Tirdof Beyaf Visashmidem, Mitakas Shemei Adonai.
המסולאים בפז, אחד נחשבו לניב לחרס, מעשה ידי יוצר. קמתנים חלצו שד, הניקו גוריהן, בתמי לאכזר, כעינים במדבר. טבק לשון יונק, אל חיכו בצמא, עוללים שלו לחם, הורס אין להם, אוכלים למדנים, נשמו בחוצות. המונים עלי תורה, חיבקו אשפתות, ויטל עוון בת עמי, מחטאת סדום, הפוכה כמו רגע, ולא חלו בידיים, זכו נזיריה משלג, צחו מחלב. אדמו עצם מפנינים, ספיר גזרתם, חשך משחור תאורם, לא ניכרו בחוצות, צפד אורם על עצמם, יבש היה חיץ, טובים היו חלי חרב, מחלי רב, שהם יעזובו מדוכרים, מתנובות שדי, day. Nashim Rachamaniyot Vishilu Yaldehan Hayu Levarod Lamo Veshever Badami Kila Adonai et Chamato Shafach Aronapo Vayatzet Eish B'Tzion Vatochal Yisodoteha Lo Heminu Macheret Kol Yoshvei Tevel Ki Avot Sarvei Oyev Mesharei Yerushalayim Mechato Neviyaha Avanon Kohaneha Hashofechim Bekirba Dam Tzadikim No Ivrim Bachutzot Negualu Badam Velo Yuchalu Yu Bilvushehem Suruta me karulamo Suru Al Tigau Kinatsu Gamnau Amaru Agoim Lo Yosifu Lagor Pene Adonai Chilkam Lo Yosif Lahabitam Pene Chwanim Lo Nasau Uzikenim Lo Chananu Odenu Tichlena Einenu Elzratenu Havel Etibiatenu Tifinu Elgoi Lo Yoshia Tzadu Tzadenu Milachet Milachet Berhoetenu Karav Kitzenu Malu Yameinu Kivar Kitzenu Kalim Hayu Rodefenu Min Nishrei Shamayim Al Haharim de Lakunu Bamidbar Lanu Ruach Apenu Mashiach Adonai Nilka Meshchitotam Asher Amarnu Bitzilo Nachya Vagoim Sisi V'Simchi Batadom Yoshevet Beretut Gamalayich Tavor Kos Tishkari Retitari Tamonech Batzion Lo Yosiv La Haglotech Pakad Onech Batadom Gila Chotatayich
Yisomim hayinu ve'inav Imoseinu kialmanos Mimenu b'chasav shosinu Eitzeinu b'mchir yavo Al tzavarenu nirdofnu Yoganu v'lo hunachlanu Mitzrayim nosanu yad Ashur lispoat lachem Avosenu chatu veinam V'anachnu avonosenu savalnu Avodim mashaluvanu Parek ein miyadam V'nafshenu navi lachmenu Mipnei cherev hamidbar Orenu kisanur nichmaru Mipnei zalafos rav Nashim b'tzion inu B'sulos b'arei Yehuda Sarim biyadam nislu Pnei zikenim lo nedaru Bachurim techo nasau Unarim ba'etz kashalu Zikenim mishar shavasu Bachurim min ginasam Shavas misos libenu nepach level mecholenu Nafla ateres roshenu, oyna lanu ki chatanu, al zeh haya daver libenu, al eile chashku einenu, al har Tzion sheshamim, shu alim hilchuvo. Ata Adonai li'olam teshev, kisacha l'dor v'dor. Lama lanetzach tishkachenu, tazvenu l'orech yameinu. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu kikedem. Ki im ma'oz me'astanu, kofatzta aleinu ad me'od. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu.